Hi everyone, it's your girl, Alexa Sarah, here to talk about an issue. And I just want to talk about call out culture and quotes and the idea of canceling people and why I'm not against it. A lot of lefty people, including, other people of color and other trans people and other stuff like that, generally just one of these intersections, but have talked about how we don't need to cancel people, or we shouldn't, and that it's capitalist or something like that. And I want, as a lefty, Latina, trans, lesbian, here's my identities. If you don't like those, you can fuck off. I'll delete your comment if you don't like it. So I want to talk about my perspective on this and how it's beneficial to be doing these kind of things, how we need to at least consider the idea that it's not all bad and not all capitalist. Right? So the idea that so someone is transphobic, right? And they do transphobic things. Should we forgive them? That's not up to a cis person to decide. We can say in theory it's good to forgive people, and that in anarchist, communist, Leninist, Marxist, whatever framework you use for your ideal utopian society that we do not live in, society, we would forgive this person and we teach them. But in those societies already, we would be having the means in which to be teaching people about different marginalized experiences from youth, and have programs to help re-educate people who are struggling with those issues and wish to improve themselves. We'd have resources and it would be free because capitalism wouldn't exist, right? But we live in capitalism, so we cannot just rehabilitate someone who is canceled, right? I cannot force this person to go see, to talk to trans people and to, listen to them and to hear their experiences and to empathize with them. I can't get the resources to gather a lot of different trans women of different experiences, and I can't get, there's so many things to spend a resource on one person. And again, in an ideal society where capital and time are not that big of an issue, you work a 10-hour work week, and you let the machines do a majority of the work, sure, yeah, we can spend lots of time fixing individuals in our community and helping them learn how to be better. But even inside these kind of societies, there would be problems, and there would be times where some person may not feel comfortable inside of a community, and it's not their job to forgive them or to educate them. It's a person's job to do whatever they need to do for their own health, and then the health of a community is also infected by the ideas of what we allow in our community. And I don't think it's capitalist, bourgeois, whatever shit from old dead white guys. What I think is that the issue for right, there's definitely problems. You can talk about digging up old tweets on someone and they were 14 when you buried it and had a bad opinion when they were 14 years old, and everyone had a bad opinion when they were 14 years old. But there's examples even of digging old truths that maybe is beneficial in terms of the way that you're looking at their framework, and then what they're doing and what they've apologized for and what they haven't, and what they've done better on and what they haven't, right? We can look 5 years away from a person who has been canceled and say, look, this person's fine, but I only have so much money. So let's talk hypothetically. Let's say I'm, Jane from Arkansas, and I have $20 I can give a month to Patreon. And Alex on Patreon did a transphobia. And John on Patreon did some sexual harassment. And they're both prolific leftists who have great ideas and are really good to listen to. But you know that, and you know that consciously, that they've been doing bad things, and their movement isn't inclusive. and you have $20. Now, there's hundreds of other leftist people, but Alex and John happen to be two that you know, right? You could give them your $10 and $10 and call it a day, right? Your whatever amount of money you have, you can put it all in them, or you can invest it in other people. And that's investing in better roots. It's not to say that anyone's perfect, because no one's perfect, right? I've believed and said lots of shitty things, and I don't want to be, put to task for them. But also, I do want to acknowledge that I did and said those things and believed those things, and it's not something that right? If you really feel sorry for it, you should feel comfortable going, yes, when I was this age, I did this. 1 year ago, I felt like this. And rehabilitation is a long process. Even if someone was talking to people and learning how to be a better person and learning how to not be a sexual harasser or something like that, it would take time. It'd take time for them to be a better person, not just like one time someone called me out. That's not how the human brain generally works. Someone might be able to work like that, but that's not generally. We can't just start extending random kindnesses to people who don't deserve it. Because for every person that we choose to invest our time and money in, there's other people that we're choosing not to do that. And that's an active choice on us on the left. We cannot choose how people act. We cannot choose how they behave or how they learn or how they progress, but we can choose how we invest our time. And canceling a person is simply a way to protect oneself and one's community from thinking about it, right? First of all, I have no power to actually cancel John or Alex. I can't do anything to them except to tell my friends, oh, you're watching their videos? Hey, look, this person's transphobic, and you probably shouldn't donate to their Patreon and really watch their videos if unless you really find them informative or something. But there's a lot of other people. I can send you some recommendations of people who aren't transphobic or sexual harassers. Because the reality is, there's always more people making content. There's always more people that are thinking about things and equating things. And it doesn't mean that you totally give up on the person if you really like them. But if you're not their friend, it's not your duty to stick with them or to help re-educate them. If you're simply a person who's engaging with content, then your duty for John or Alex is nothing. You owe them nothing. They have performed a form of labor, yes, and you engaged with it, and you engaged with it in the way that they had found appropriate until the period in which you decided no longer to engage with it. And you don't owe them constant engagement. You no longer want to engage with the works of their labor and to tell others that, hey, their labor may not be good, right? If someone made faulty chairs that broke down and they were laboring hard for it, we would tell others to not get those faulty chairs. So thusly, I think that it is very important that we also consider that we need to look at the labor, the social labor, the ideological labor, and see, is this faulty? And look, sometimes you need a faulty chair. You just take it because the price is cheap enough. But unlike that, generally, all this content is free. It's free, and if that's the most accessible to you, right? If John or Alex is the most accessible, they can talk to you in your experiences, then you can take the good and take the bad, and that's your personal choice. But I don't think anyone should be lambasted for saying, I will never watch one of John or Alex's videos. Instead, they should just be like, yeah, cool, I choose not to do the same thing as you. And then if they make a judgment of you, you also have to accept that they may see that you're implicitly agreeing with what they do, especially if they haven't had a time for redemption. They've just made an apology immediately after, which again, people do not immediately change their opinions. When people apologize, they are sorry that they got caught, they are sorry that they got in trouble, they are not sorry that they did something. Because if they're sorry that they did something, they would have confessed to it without needing to be called out. It just would have been like, hey, this is a thing that I feel really bad about. I feel really bad about, the racism, the anti-blackness in particular that I was raised with, despite being Latinx. There was a lot of anti-blackness, and I didn't meet a lot of black people, and that trickled into my interactions in high school when I went to a high school that had a much larger black population. And even when I would make friendships with black people, I would be edgy, I would watch the Boondocks, write whatever. and I regret those things, but I was also a teenager. But I still wouldn't shame any of the people who I interacted with in high school that were like, I would never want to really talk to Alexis. She's like a bad person. I'd, argue, hey, I transitioned and I came out and I worked really hard to become a better person and educate myself over these amount of years. But if they don't want to, I can't make them feel like they owe me something. And they don't owe me something, right? They don't owe me their forgiveness because they only have so much time and so much money and so much, force that they can use in their life. I can't stop. I can't ask someone to invest their time into me outside of, I think I have good ideas, come and listen to me. And they can't ask, right? So I can ask that and they don't owe me anything for doing that. Now, if I save someone's life and what can I do one thing, then I guess maybe they could technically owe me. I have no idea. But in terms of actual owing people something, I don't think we owe people who create content beyond the engagement of the content, and if we really enjoy their content, then contribution via Patreon or coffee or PayPaling money directly or buying their merch or whatever means of assistance that you believe is appropriate to that person who's making content, or the amount of compensation that they've directly asked for in the cost of a book or whatever. It's not at all my job to forgive people or to not cancel people. The emotional labor of helping people become better is up to their friends, to themselves, to their communities. They can do that, and that's great. I hope that all people can become better. I hope that people who are racist, transphobic, homophobic, sexist can all become better people and learn to be better, but it's not my job to forgive those people. Right? Especially if it doesn't affect me. If someone is being anti-black, and then I'm I forgive them for being anti-black. We need to learn forgiveness, right? Then what am I saying other than anti-blackness isn't that big of an issue? Sexual harassment sucks, but it only affected 1 or 2 people. Sexism sucks, but it's not as big as the ideas that they're putting out to fight against the capitalist menace. You can't decide for people what is good and what is bad and what is worth supporting. But I can tell people, hey, this person isn't worth supporting. In my opinion, you're allowed to do whatever you want. I may not want to be your friend if you're a frequent sharer and constantly quoting them or something, but I probably can be your friend even if you like people I think are bad. Even if you love them, right? I can probably be your friend. I may just not I may mute your tweets or something like that, right? If we're Twitter friends. Because I don't want to see you talking about that. Or if I think it's an actual issue, I may not decide I don't want to be your friend anymore because it seems that every time they fuck up, you don't care. And repeat behavior and all these things are also important factors. This is very complicated, and it'd be very easy to make an hour, 2 hour, 3 hour, 4 hour, write a whole book, make a movie series, make a Netflix television series about, right, how we don't owe people forgiveness and how there are ways to interact with this and to not interact with this, right? There's a lot of things that you can do better, that we can do better when we're calling people out, and specifically in not instantly assuming that anyone attached to the person is bad. That's probably the only thing that I frequently see that is that it's actually a problem when people are calling a person out and canceling a person. Other than obviously falling for made up shit that happens sometimes. Someone who doesn't like someone who's lefty or queer or whatever will make up a story and then just do that just to hurt them because they want to hurt marginalized people. But other than that, we just need to make sure that we are realize that a lot of people are very good at keeping secrets and to not talk about certain topics, and to even maybe be good to people that they are actively not happy with, because the reality of bigotry and the actions of bigotry and what we think of as bigotry and how people treat people individually are different. The way that my mom is very bigoted, but she would never, to someone's face, say like, "Oh, I don't trust you because you're this group or that group or whatever," unless it's me, because whatever. But what happened? Well, she would, right, be friends with lots of black people, but then make like, "Oh, but you should like but then like if a random black person is gonna come into the house, like make sure that you're watching the money or whatever in the house, because it's no longer an individual, it is becoming a stereotype. The concept of a group person in a marginalized group becomes something that you hold a bigoted belief towards, where you go like, well, this person's my exception, they're a good one. We have to realize that someone might be nice to you even though you're trans and hate trans people, because you're their exception, or they're forced to work with you and they just have to accept that you exist. But it doesn't mean they have love for the community or for you, or wouldn't sell out your rights on an instant. And then maybe they'll say like, but Alexis should keep her rights. Alexis should be able to transition. No one else should. Alexis is the only real trans. Everyone else is a transgender. But that's not the truth. And I wouldn't want to accept that kind of friendship. But if I was friends with that person, I held them near and dear, and then they got called out on the internet for their beliefs, then it would be my job as a person who finds this person near and dear to educate them and tell them why it's not good and why I cannot be their friend if they do not grow. I will be there to help them grow, but I'm not going to be like publicly defending them or standing them while they're in their process of re-education. It takes time. It takes time to learn about issues. It takes time to care about issues. It took a lot of time for me to come out as trans. It took a lot of time for me to understand my gender, my place with my ethnicity, my place with my sexuality. It took a lot of time. And I can't expect someone who doesn't experience those things to do it in a shorter amount of time, to suddenly empathize with a group of people in a shorter amount of time. It's just not possible. So we need to just be real and really confront the realities of people in movements and people that, like, right, the actual concept of canceling someone isn't counter-revolutionary, isn't capitalist, but it is out of necessity for our interaction with capitalism, for our interaction with bigotry, our interaction with these systems. We can only do so much. I can only watch so many people, and I'd rather spend my energy, time, money on people who are not outwardly hurting people. So, like, that's my belief, and I think that a lot of people need to start considering the ideas that, that it's not bad to be like, fuck this person, they did a bad thing. If you're hurt by it, if you feel a personal connection to how that hurts you, or hurt someone else, or hurt someone you love, or they literally hurt someone you love, it's not your job to say, oh yeah, you should forgive them. No, you should probably would say, fuck this person, don't trust them. Just like you would say, if someone gave, if someone, had a store and they told you get out because you're gay or something, right? You would probably tell people never to shop at that store. You wouldn't go like, live your life and live your personal experience, right? And of course, people who go in that store aren't all bad, but it is important to, fucking talk about it and let people know who might also be turned away, might also be hurt about the effects. And so that's my thoughts on it. Hopefully it was coherent. I rambled for a bit, but I hope that this is a topic that people can listen to and maybe consider the opinions. It's not that I have all the answers, but I just am a simple girl who wants to help. I have a Patreon and stuff, and that might be in the description. If you don't want to donate, don't. That's fine. And if you disagree with me, you can leave a comment, but if it's shitty, I'll delete it. Have a great evening, everyone. I'll cancel you later.